A little more than an hour ago, President Trump fired one of the nation's top cybersecurity officials for stating that the recent election was, quote, the most secure in American history. As we reported earlier, Chris Krebs is now responding on Twitter. It reads as follows, quote, honored to serve. We did it right. Defend today, secure tomorrow. Concludes with the hashtag Protect 2020. We're joined now by Congressman Adam Schiff, chair of the House Intelligence Committee. Chairman Schiff, you released a statement shortly before air that read, in part, it's pathetic, but sadly predictable, that upholding and protecting our democratic processes would be cause for firing. Does this surprise you at all?
You know, it doesn't surprise me. This has been the story of the Trump administration for 4 years. Anyone that had the audacity to speak truth to power, anybody that wouldn't carry the president's false line, would get fired and replaced by someone who would. That was the early experience of the administration, and it will be the experience until the president is walked out of the Oval Office. But it's a terrible tragedy, and you know, for a good public servant, I have to tell you, Anderson, I sat through innumerable hearings with intelligence agency heads, with department heads on the subject of election security, election interference, and I was consistently impressed with Chris Krebs, with his willingness to just speak it plainly, not couch his words, not try to, color things to favor what the president's preferred narrative was. And his reward is to be unceremoniously kicked out. But I have to tell you, everyone who gets fired by this president, it's only an enhancement to their reputation. And so thank you, Chris Krebs, for doing a good job securing our elections. And I think you leave your office with your head held high, unlike many others who have served in this administration.
Yeah, I mean, we should point out he was named by President Trump to this position, charged with providing support to safeguard the election. It's, to the president's, followers who believe there's a deep state in, cahoots against the president. This is somebody the president appointed to this position.
Well, that's exactly right. And, indeed, a lot of the people he complains about being deep staters are people that he put in the state. But, this president is nothing if not inconsistent. The one, through line of the presidency is he does whatever he thinks is in his personal interest. And he's personally vindictive. And here you had Chris Krebs, in not so many words, saying that what the president has been saying about the elections being stolen or rigged or fraudulent is a bunch of bunk. And that was just not something the president could tolerate, both because it was true and because he had the courage to say so. At this very moment, while we're speaking, Rudy Giuliani is well, maybe not at this particular hour, but he's in court making all of these false allegations that Chris Krebs has been rebutting. But apparently the president is chewing through any lawyer who is willing to essentially speak nonsense to the court and running out of them, and has found Rudy Giuliani his go-to when all else fails. But this is the contrast we have between a person of principle like Chris Krebs and the Rudy Giulianis, the last of the administration willing to still do the president's dirty work.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that Rudy Giuliani is in charge of the president's legal situation on this is, it gives you a sense of how legitimate the charges that they're making really are, that Giuliani is the one now who's in charge, because a lot of other lawyers have either dropped out or their cases have just fallen apart because there is no widespread voter fraud in this country. What does this tell you, though, about the next, 64 plus days that the president is going to be in office before he has to leave? It seems like, Maggie Haberman from the New York Times was on last week just saying that the president views things as kind of like a show that he's watching, and that he just thinks of things in increments of time, that we're in this increment of time now, and then he wants to win this increment and then the next increment, and he's just kind of wanting to see how it all turns out almost as an observer. There's a lot of damage he could do in the next 60-something days.
I think there's a lot of truth to Maggie Haberman's assessment. He has always viewed his own job, the presidency, as if someone else was doing it. the way he talks about himself as a victim in the third person, the way he criticizes the policies of the federal government and its inability to do things when he is leading the federal government. You would think that he was some, passive observer on the sideline, not empowered to do things. But in fact, the problem is that his interests, as you say, are very myopic. That is, what helps Donald Trump in the next 24 hours? What helps him in the next news cycle? What's good for him in his future? What helps him with, his money making down the line or his future political ambitions? That's all that drives him. And he can't understand someone like Chris Krebs. This is the other thing about the president. He can't understand Chris Krebs, who would do his duty any more than he can the men and women who serve in uniform and risk their lives for the country.